At the end of the power line, which you are following, is a homeowner. A homeowner who has figured out how to take advantages of some of the new programs offered by utility companies in regard to the way that we consume and can actually sell power back to the grid. At the end of this particular line is homeowner George Jensen. So George, you want to tell us about the way that power normally comes into your house from a utility company?
Sure, Len. You've seen the line that comes in through the mast coming down here, and it comes into a power panel through a meter. And this is how the power company decides how much to charge you. From this meter, it goes to a breaker panel, and then is distributed throughout your house. If the fire department ever needs to turn off the power, they come in and turn off a main breaker. If you ever need to turn off power to work on something, you turn off a single breaker. We've all got breaker panels in our houses. These replace what we most have is fuse panels. I've got a little extra added on here.
Because you recently remodeled this home and added solar panels onto the top of your remodeled unit.
Correct. We added a garage, and on top of it we put an apartment. And on the roof we put 7 solar panels.
And what was the reason for doing that?
Mostly to save some money. The advantage of having solar panels in Tucson is we have a lot of sunlight. And that sunlight can generate power when we're not using it or when we are using it. But it's power that can be either used while we're using it or conveniently, with the power company we have, sold back. I in effect become a provider of power when I'm not using what I'm generating.
So explain to us how that works.
Well, if you take a look here, we've got what's called a solar inverter. The power comes in off of the roof panels down through this feed, and it comes in the form of DC, or direct current. It's the kind of current you get out of a battery, something like in your car battery or your cell phone. Well, the power that you use in your house is AC, or alternating current, so it needs to be changed, and that's what this inverter does. It turns the DC into AC. That AC is the same flavor power that we consume. That AC comes through this disconnect and through a meter, so we can meter the amount that we're generating and we have generated. And it comes into the panel just like it does from the power company. But now I've got power coming in from 2 sources. If I'm using as much power as I'm generating, I'm not using any from the power company. If I'm using more, I use what I generate plus what I buy from the power company. And on those fun days when I'm using less than I'm generating, the power that I generate need not be stored in local batteries or wasted. The company actually buys it back. Power flows back through this meter and is consumed by other people.
Today's a bright, sunny day in Tucson. And notice if I look at your meter here, it's actually, well, it's running backwards today.
It is running backwards today.
So what does that mean?
What that means is that I am actually generating more power than I'm using, so that my next door neighbor is probably buying power from my solar panels.
So you've used this entire system to really change yourself from being a consumer of energy to...
Sometimes I'm a consumer, and sometimes I'm a provider of energy. I'm still a net consumer. Still don't have enough power yet in the number of panels to supply all my needs throughout the month. But it's certainly saving me money directly off my utility bill. Our power company in particular, this one, buys it back at the same rate they sell it to. Not every company's like that, unfortunately. Here they are.
So that's how we turn average homeowners and consumers into actually being their own utility company.
Yeah. Well, one thing I might add too, and probably a nice thing to finish this out, is solar power works very well when it is distributed. It's a very good distributed technology, meaning that creating a solar power plant that takes up acres and acres somewhere in the desert, then transmitting that power through power lines across the desert doesn't make as much sense as having that power actually close to where it's used. Then we cut down on all the efficiency loss needed to generate, needed to transmit that power.
So it's not only about the savings and the generation of power on your own, but it's about also becoming more energy efficient and cutting down on
some of the transmission losses and some of the infrastructure costs that there are. If you put the power generation close to the power use, you cut down on a lot of that waste.
That's great. Thank you, George.